Tall, handsome, with a pretty face, a flowing mane of gorgeous hair, high cheekbones, and that rock star attitude. Sebastian Bach, epitomized 1980s hair metal. Welcome to the Doomed Planet Podcast, Episode 11. Rock Autobiographies Are Torture, Part 2. Sebastian Bach's Me Too Moments.
Oh, who was that? Boom, bam, bing, bam, bing, bang. Boom, bam, bing, bam, bing, bang. Tortillas. Oh, yeah.
We're doing another fun, lighthearted episode so that we can escape from the current nightmare we are in with electoral politics in this country. Bernie is a few days away from winning Iowa, I'm going to say by 11 points. And then he will be attacked as an anti-Semite, as a racist, and all these things that he is not. So let's escape from that and talk about Bach. We will go back to the past, to Sebastian Bach's prime. Bach's book, 18 and Life on Skid Row, came out in 2016 and sold particularly well. 18 and Life is currently number 41 on Amazon's heavy metal musician biography chart. And there are some horrors on this list, but again, we're going to wrap up our obsession with bad biographies of bad musicians with this episode. Now we're going to have some fun. From Skid Row to Broadway, from the gutters of New Jersey to Savile Row, herein lies the tale of the first 30 years of Bach and roll, mother truckers. And again, Sebastian Bach is not a loser. He's had almost incredible career. So it's not like he's the bass player from Enough's Enough or something like that. He's got a story to tell. The bad behavior, though, gets kind of sickening. So we'll get to that. The Bach puns are already getting old, but you look on the Amazon page, NPR, Best Books of 2017. Boy, that would make me run away right there, especially NPR is passing any judgment on music, which is one of their weaker points of all their weak points. Now, Inglorious Paper Bach, and featuring new photos. As is the theme with the 100% of these 80s hair metal biographies, grunge and alternative music basically killed their band. Sebastian Bach, however, went on to star on Broadway and Savile Row in London, in roles in Jekyll and Hyde, Jesus Christ Superstar, and the Rocky Horror Picture Show, and then he appeared on a hit television show called The Gilmore Girls for many years. His band, Skid Row, is touring and is going to be in the Seattle area soon, but without Sebastian Bach. However, at sebastianbach.com, you will see that he is Bach by popular demand. 31st Anniversary Tour, 1989 to 2020. He's going to perform the first record, Skid Row, in its entirety. And yeah, he'll be in Portland and at Suquamish, Washington on March 28th. I'm guessing that is a casino. I know he's on the casino circuit a bit. Bach is also going to be on the Rock Legends cruise. Ready to have the best time of your life since you were 18 years old is actually their slogan. And I kid you not, the opening page at rocklegendscruise.com shows a panoramic photo of middle-aged 50-something white people in a crowd watching a band. It's truth-telling. I mean, it's honest. Let's put it that way. The Rock Legends Cruise 8, February 27th to March 2nd, 2020, is sold out. It saddens me to see some of the rock stars who are getting a paycheck doing Rock Legends Cruise 8. Roger Daltrey, Nancy Wilson, Robbie Krieger of The Doors, Uriah Heep, UFO, Sebastian Bach, the Atlanta Rhythm Section, and some lesser-known acts like Wet Willie, Larkin Poe, Brandon Taz Niederauer, and Goose. For $5,000, you can get the Grand Suite. It's a 2-bedroom aboard the cruise. And if you want to enjoy the cruise basically in steerage, you can get a 2-person interior with no windows for $1,000. We do want to mention that some of the rock and roll cruise money is being kicked back to a worthy nonprofit, and that's the Native American Heritage Association, which helps out Native Americans living on reservations in South Dakota. Home to some of the poorest people in our nation. A featured vendor is Rain Man Records, home to some of your favorite classic rock artists. Blue Cheer, 10 years after, Jefferson Starship, and Steppenwolf. This is how low the music industry has sunk. And again, I don't know. I mean, this is what you do with your life. You're a musician, and at some point, you might end up playing the same songs you played 40 or 30 or 50 years ago on a cruise ship to some geezers. It's sad, but maybe you mismanaged your rock and roll fortune and you need the money. In Roger Daltrey's case, he's just sad, and has been ever since the Who announced their final tour in 1980. Or was it 1984? I don't remember, because that is ancient times. I think being on a cruise ship with fans of 80s hair metal is my worst nightmare. But you will be on Royal Caribbean's new gas-guzzling Independence of the Seas. It's got a sports bar, a fish and chips place, sushi place, laser tag, escape room, a rock climbing wall, internet access, casino, 9-hole miniature golf course, Johnny Rockets 50s style diner. So it's got a Johnny Rockets on there, and also a Sorrento's pizza, and more. This is a horror. All right, let's get to the book. Part of the formula of this podcast, and again, bear with us, we're making it up as we go along and evolving, is that we take a book and we eviscerate the book and we crib from the book and we steal ideas from the book, and we try to take a book that is shitty and poorly written and make it entertaining. It's a good idea. I mean, this nonprofit is doing this profitable cruise. The artists get paid. The losers, who are middle-aged people that want to relive their childhoods for some reason instead of looking toward the future, enjoy themselves. And the 2011 edition of the Rock Legends Cruise, sort of a redneck country thing, which is kind of good. Some good bands here if you're into that. I don't think any people of color were going to be interested in going on this cruise, but wow, ZZ Top, George Thorogood, Marshall Tucker, Dickie Betts, Foghat, Molly Hatchet, Johnny Winter, the Edgar Winter Band, Artemis Pyle, Pat Travers, Devon Allman, Swamp Dawamp, Whiskey Myers, Preacher Stone. I mean, this is like the biker bar from heaven. So it could have been fun, I guess, if you're a middle-aged white person who likes that type of music. So Sebastian Bach's 18 and Life on Skid Row features a young and pretty Sebastian Bach on the cover. He is indeed a good-looking gentleman. Also, the cover art looks like it's professionally done by a real publishing house, so that makes this rock autobiography stand out right away. The book opens with a story of them performing in front of 20,000 people, and someone throws a bottle on stage and it hits Sebastian Bach, and he's bleeding profusely from the head, and then he pitches the bottle back into the audience and then jumps into the audience and kicks the perpetrator in the face and breaks his jaw, and they end up getting pulled over by the police. And the cop is saying, "Did you know what you did?" And he's like, No, what, dude?" And they're like, "You broke this poor girl's nose." And it's interesting. It's a good way that the ghostwriter, who goes unnamed for this book, frames this. It's like he's at the peak of his fame, but there's the dark side and the foreshadowing of what is to come. And that incident of Sebastian Bach assaulting audience members happened on December 27th, 1989. It's like Nirvana and grunge are right around the corner, and Skid Row is going to be ending because people don't want this foofy hairband stuff where the kind of glam rock is taken in a shopping mall and hairspray direction, and they're going to want grittier, more cynical bands and alternative music and horrifyingly twee garbage like Smashing Pumpkins and shit. To my shock, horror, and amazement, says Bach, my face is not covered in tomato juice. My face is completely covered in my own blood in front of 20,000 people. Then some guys crowd around the person that threw the bottle at him, and they're pointing and shouting, "It was him! It was him!" "Was it you, cocksucker?" says Bach. Then he looks straight at me and extends his middle finger in the gesture commonly known as "fuck you." And this is the exact moment when Sebastian Bach's childhood dream to become a rock star shows, quote, the first sign of an adult nightmare. Quote, I had played at least 7 or 8 years previous to this moment, playing in clubs, bars, saloons, playing 3 sets a night, cover tunes to drunk rock and rollers in Quebec and Northern Ontario. Fighting was just a part of the scene that I had been in for years now. I did not know any other way to respond. But this was not a club. It was a packed arena full of 20,000 people. I said into the mic, "Everybody get the fuck back." So he throws the bottle into the crowd and then, quote, I run with all my power toward the lip of the stage. I jump off the stage, flying through the air, and plant my Cuban-heeled beetle boot straight into the man's jaw, breaking it immediately. I start flailing my fists at the man whose jaw I just broke. So it's funny that he's presenting himself as this brawling badass, which he partially is. It's a great way to start a book about like a wuss rock band. So then the band tries to keep going after this incident, and they launch into the song Piece of Me. Sleazin' in the city. Well, I'm looking for a fight. I'm on my heels and looking pretty on a Saturday night. So their managers want them not only out of the building after the show, but out of the state. And yeah, he realizes he's got an inch-long gash on his head, and, head wounds bleed a lot. So it must have been ugly. So Doc and Scott McGee are the managers of Skid Row at this time. We'll talk more about them in a bit. But they're like, we need to get out of this state before you get arrested for assault that happened in front of 20,000 witnesses. They get pulled over by about 1,000 Massachusetts state troopers. And after about an hour of everyone sitting there, the troopers get on the tour bus. This is when he realizes, quote, I had hurt an innocent girl in the melee, the girl whose nose he broke. A fan of rock and roll, the thing I held most dear to my heart. And it's funny, it's a great thing, it's a fun thing, it's a silly, sort of vacuous thing, but rock and roll is for 15-year-old boys. So if you look at the contemporary Sebastian Bach, who's still touring, he's not quite as pretty anymore. And like a lot of these LA hair band people, he's had some work done. He's had some cosmetic surgery, which makes him look even worse. No, this is why you die young when you're a rock star. I know that people have described Kurt Cobain toward the end of his life as being like looking like this tiny, frail, sick old man, and he would not have aged well. He was not going to be that handsome of a man if he had lived to be, he'd be 53. So Sebastian Bach's dad was an art teacher, and a lot of these successful rockers had interesting, cool, alternative parents, hippie parents. And his dad died in 2002. So for some reason, he thinks at one point that he is Norwegian, but it turns out he is of German descent, and his dad's family is from Baden-Württemberg, Germany. Würzburg should have a umlaut over the first U there, people. Come on, copy editors, if there are any. There certainly are not fact checkers for these rock stories. So hippie parents, yeah, his dad taught art at Humboldt State University. So his sister was named Heather Dillon after Bob Dylan. And Sebastian was named Sebastian not after Mr. French on the show Family Affair, like I thought. No, I was named after the actor Sebastian Cabot. Wait, no, he's not named after Sebastian Cabot. He's named after John Sebastian, the singer of the band Lovin' Spoonful. So he met important artists as a child, such as Christo, who came and had dinner with us at his house with his wife, unquote. Once when he was 11 or 12, his dad paid him and his friend to sell beer at one of the art openings at his dad's gallery. So Bach ends up moving to Canada and joins the choir, of course, and becomes obsessed with Kiss, the band. Like 99.9% of children from the 70s, his parents get a divorce. So this is when he's about 10 years old, and this is when Kiss is big. And so you got divorce and an obsession with comic books and an obsession with comic book style puerile bands like Kiss. So his first real corporate concert is Kiss, with Sammy Hagar opening the show. Toronto, we are going to get fucking wild tonight, motherfuckers. Are you ready? Said Sammy. Sammy dropping that F-bomb felt more like an atomic bomb to my brain. So his dad is not stupid. They go to the Kiss show and they have the nosebleed seats, but as soon as the lights go down, he grabs Sebastian and they head right to the front. He's literally close enough to Kiss to absorb some of the various bodily excretions that are coming off the band members. Saliva, blood, bacteria, feces, fecal matter, vomit. Dad gets remarried and Sebastian is sent away to Lakefield College School for 3 years, an all-boys private boarding school. This is the kind of place where no one else has hippie parents, and there's some alleged violence. So he's always a big boy for my age, he said. So he gets a reputation as someone you don't want to fuck with, and he beats up some people. Then you have the inevitable experimentation with drugs and alcohol that all of us children of the 70s experienced. Smoking some weed, and his first ever drink is of Kahlua, which is a thick, syrupy coffee liqueur. He and his buddy drank the whole bottle, and then there was some vomiting, obviously, and then he never wanted a sip of Kahlua again. So that's a rookie drinker mistake. You don't drink liqueur, you mix liqueur into a cocktail. And the second time was a bottle of gin. Oh, once again, he's puking. This is interesting. So Sebastian realizes he wants to be a rock star and a frontman and singer for a famous and rich rock band at this time, and he trains himself to sing along to music that's in the highest register, Rush and the Police. Anything that keeps him going as a soprano. This will work well with the 80s style of butt hair metal because you have these guitars that are screeching at a high, harmonious, high-pitched guitar sound. He starts his first band in prep school. I had an all-red body outfit that I thought looked really cool. For totally badass effect, I tied a bandana around my thigh. I was thinking David Lee Roth, but I looked more like Chachi from Happy Days. Again, these are all Gen X references that I don't think my kids or anyone under the age of 50 will even understand. So that's going to bring us to a little break here for podcast shout-out.
Podcast shout-out.
And we're talking about the Useful Idiots podcast, sponsored by Rolling Stone. There are two hosts, Katie Halper and Matt Taibbi. I was not really familiar with Katie's work until I started listening to this podcast, but she's great. And Taibbi, of course, is the kind of Rolling Stone, Hunter S. Thompson influenced journalist who came up with the great description of satanic investment bank, Goldman Sachs. The world's most powerful investment bank is a great vampire squid wrapped around the face of humanity, relentlessly jamming its blood funnel into anything that smells like money. So they've got all the big lefty stars on here. Jimmy Dore, we'll get to him. I love him. Pussy Riot, Crystal Ball. One thing I've got to say is they do date themselves as being Gen X because when they refer to pop culture and stuff, it's always sort of an MTV, just it's dated from that era sort of thing, which is odd. But again, I guess they're not hiding who they are. They are not Chapo Trap House. One thing is that the chemistry is not there. I love Katie. I just don't think she and Matt have this chemistry. And Katie has her own show. And then Matt, he's a great writer. I like his writing. He just is not a radio host. And so, you think you can jump in there and do this podcasting thing. Well, I don't know. We'll see what happens with this show. One important thing about the podcast is to make it not seem scripted. And to do that, you need chemistry between either the host and the interviewees or the co-hosts. That ain't happening here. Sorry, bros. So that's our podcast. Shout out.
Podcast shout out.
So Sebastian Bach is kicked out of his prep school. And then, quote, the transition from private school back to public could not have been more marked. Gone were the gray flannel slacks and green suit jackets. The cassock and gown had now been replaced by Accept, Balls to the Wall, and Twisted Sister, You Can't Stop Rock and Roll concert t-shirts. I had a jean jacket, on the back of which I painstakingly detailed the Twisted Sister and Queensryche logos in white liquid paper. He's getting into drugs, he's getting into rock, and he's at a public school, and he's practicing really hard to be a singer. I would attempt to sing Queensryche's Queen of the Reich and Judas Priest's Unleashed in the East, attempting to hit supersonic high notes that were possible only in my wildest dreams. I sang hours upon hours behind my locked bedroom door. Doing drugs, quote, my most vivid memory of doing acid is laughter, to the point of paralysis. On July 9th, 1984, Aerosmith played Canada's Wonderland, an amusement park near Toronto, for their Back in the Saddle tour. Okay, I'm confused here. Back in the Saddle is just a song from the album Rocks that came out in 1976, and that is the killer album that my addled Gen X mind is recalling. A brain fried by standing too close to the monitors during Soundgarden concerts. Hearing loss also. No tinnitus, though. So the Back in the Saddle tour in 1984, that is basically referring to the fact that, we're off drugs now, we swear, and we're going to make a comeback and be more commercial than ever. As to be predicted, Sebastian Bach starts playing around Toronto in some bands. One of his bands was briefly called Herrenvolk. I was briefly told it was German for men who look like women. And they are getting into all the makeup and the teased out hair and the rock look at this point. Then he starts playing with Kid Wicked. The Kid Wicked is doing well. Quote, we went on tour, got crabs in Sudbury, drank beers in Brockville, smoked hash in Quebec, playing 3 sets a night at places such as Saint-Anselme, Sherbrooke, Les Papillons, outside Ottawa, in Hull. The drinking age was 18 at the time. I was still underage, headlining these clubs. Standing on the tables, careful not to kick off the lines of cocaine. The Montreal bikers laid out, rocking all night to Kid Wicked, Wikkid. He's in a band called Madam X after that. These are dudes who are 10 years older than him. It's an established band, and they gigged all across the U.S. These rock careers start out so fun and innocent, and they end so gross. Here, I lost my virginity at age of 13, drinking a whole bottle of wine, and then, quote, lying down on the floor and putting my thingy in her thinging. This would be the first of many, many times that I would get drunk and fuck. No rock autobiography is complete without the bragging about all the sex. One time at a Kid Wicked show, 2 strippers from Montreal named Bunny and Manon came to see us. They had heavy French-Canadian accents, and I really dug them a lot. I brought them both back to Uncle Jay's place, and I proceeded to have my first threesome. It's pretty cool when you are 15 years old to have 2 women. Well, you get the idea. He lived with a stripper named Crazy Sue for a while when he was 15. He joined Skid Row in 1987. The story has been told many times, he says. So he met Motley Crue when they came to Toronto on the Girls, Girls, Girls tour. This is when Motley Crue was at their peak. And he gave Nikki Sixx a cassette tape and a picture, which was passed on to Doc McGee, manager of Motley Crue and Bon Jovi. So he meets John Bon Jovi, and Bon Jovi's parents at a wedding thought that Sebastian Bach would be a good fit for the band Skid Row. So Skid Row had a demo tape. They already had songs written, Youth Gone Wild and 18 in Life. But Bach says that the singer at the time was trying to be Bon Jovi, and he was more metal-oriented. His main vocal influences were Rob Halford and Steve Perry. I wouldn't say Steve Perry is exactly metal, but he certainly sings in the high register. Did some voiceover work for commercials for Schooner Beer that paid him a couple $1,000s. He's still only 16. So he's 16, he's in Skid Row. He's already successful in another field doing those voiceovers. Of course, by this time he's in New Jersey, an area I know well. And Skid Row is out of Toms River, New Jersey, which is just right over the bay from, or close to Long Beach Island, which is a barrier island. One of my most treasured memories of the early days of Skid Row is an all-out brawl that we got into at the local White Castle of all places. New Jersey was a culture shock to this Canadian boy in many ways. I had never seen foods or towns with names like Manalapan or Baked Ziti. My first encounter with Baked Ziti was at a pizzeria with Dave the Snake. I looked up at the menu and I said to Dave, "What in the hell is Baked Zit?" Going to White Castle was a similar culture shock. I had never experienced food quite like White Castle's. It was definitely unique. Again, no ghostwriter is credited for this book. So they beat up some hecklers at the White Castle and kick their ass, and then the cops come, so they escape. There is a police report for that incident. Robert Afuso, Sebastian Bach, they spell his name wrong there, Gary Taylor, Greg Yelagan. So, rock stars that take themselves too seriously. There are many. The thing that was different about Skid Row than other bands I had been in was that it was all about the music. We rehearsed every single day. Doc McGee comes into the picture and agrees to sign the band to a management deal. It's like, oh yeah, I manage Bon Jovi, one of the biggest bands, so yeah, of course you're going to sign with Doc McGee. Gee, I haven't heard this rock story before. Next up, an accountant was chosen for us. Although a red flag should have been raised in my head, I was far too young to understand the music business even remotely. So they're going to get fucked over financially like 99.9% of all bands. And the music industry is basically a group of bloodthirsty sharks fanging their teeth well, you get the idea. There's a notice in the Toronto newspaper, U.S. deal lifts band up from Skid Row. 2 years ago, Sebastian Bach was the tall and cocky frontman for Kid Wicked, a local glam band that was lucky to scrounge the occasional gig at the Gasworks. Now, the 20-year-old Toronto native's new group has just been signed to Atlantic Records. Legendary Atlantic Records impresario Ahmet Erdogan showed up to a Skid Row show in Allentown, Pennsylvania in a helicopter with 12 hot women flying with him to see the show. After the show, at dinner, he regaled us with stories of Keith Richards wiping coke off his face at Mick Jagger's wedding to Bianca. So they're still jamming in the garage in Toms River, New Jersey, and one day a red Ferrari shows up, and it's John Bon Jovi coming to see them play. So Skid Row is going to get rich and famous, and we'll have the inevitable, predictable stories of sex and drugs and rock and roll. So we're going to spare you most of that and just jump to some of the more interesting parts of the book. At one point, Bach denigrates Richie Sambora of Bon Jovi. He had this like beer gut or something, and Bach was like, "Hey dude, what the hell is that hanging over your belt buckle? What's up with that belly, man?" At the time, I was as rail thin and as androgynous as David Bowie. I was like a human praying mantis. But when you're 19 years old, that was easy. I didn't understand how the great rock god did not have rock-hard abs of steel. He looked at me with a giant grin on his face. "What, that?" He motioned to his expando gut. He then said, and I'll never forget these words, "I'll just get an 8-ball of blow and I'll look great." And he laughed that big Italian rock and roll laugh of his. I had done cocaine at this point, but not tons of it. The first time I ever did it was in Crazy Sue's bathroom. Yeah. So Richie Sambora has to explain his cocaine gut reduction thing to Sebastian Bach. He explained to me, "I'll just get a couple of 8 balls of coke, do that for a couple of days, and this'll be gone." He was serious. This is where I first learned of cocaine's dietary properties. So then Skid Row is going to tour with Bon Jovi, and the chapter is called Young, Dumb, and Fulla Cum. And I am so sorry that I had to read that. So their first album, Skid Row, is massive, and it sells millions of copies, and they become rock and roll superstars overnight. These rock guys like to party with each other, and at one point, Bach goes over to Lemmy's apartment, Lemmy from Motorhead, and, quote, "The space was crammed full of World War II memorabilia, knives, grenades, Nazi insignias next to dishes and Corning cookware. And then they did some speed." One of the more charming aspects of Lemmy's life is that he collected Nazi memorabilia. Oh, and then Sebastian Bach meets a beautiful girl. Quote, "Her name was Christina Applegate. As the 16-year-old star of Married with Children, she played the role of Kelly Bundy on one of the highest-rated TV shows in the country, and she was totally gorgeous. She is indeed a beautiful woman."
You know I love you, baby. And that's why it's time to get funky.
"Hi, what's your name?" she said with a twinkle in her eye. "My name is Sebastian. What's your name?" "Christina." So they hit it off immediately. They exchange phone numbers. Things turn sour in the relationship with Bon Jovi when Bach calls him Bon Blow Me while on stage, and that gets John Bon Jovi and his brother and his dad and some other meatheads threatening to kill him. So they're going to do a concert in the Soviet Union. This is the brainchild of, quote, Doc McGee, who was busted in the mid-'80s for smuggling 40,000 pounds of marijuana into North Carolina, along with the alleged knowledge of Manuel Noriega. There's an article in Esquire magazine about that incident. Doc McGee may or may not have used drug money to launch the careers of Motley Crue and Bon Jovi. They're in the Soviet Union, and, quote, we started inhaling pure Russian vodka, no mixer, at about 1:35 p.m. Watching the other bands. By 3 or 4, I was shit-hammered drunk. I have never been able to handle hard liquor. Vodka, Jack Daniels, tequila, Jägermeister, it all fucks me up beyond all recognition. I suppose that is the point. So Doc McGee's brother, Scott, takes away Sebastian Bach's vodka. Scott McGee ends up beating on Sebastian Bach, putting his shoe down on his neck and stuff. I love you, motherfucker, but you drive me fucking insane, he whispered an inch from my face as his tears dripped into my eyes. I couldn't breathe. I was going to lose consciousness if he didn't get off my throat. Okay, so if you hear any audio problems, keep in mind that I'm homeschooling 3 children. We have 3 dogs, 2 parakeets, and 2 lizards. And the lizards are mostly quiet, except when they run across the floor, and then you can hear the pitter-patter of their little claws. The kids just woke up, but we're going to press on against all odds. And eventually, even a few months from now, we're going to have a airtight, soundproof studio situation, or we're at least going to book time in the studio here where when there are no kids around. So Sebastian Bach is dating Christina Applegate, and they go sightseeing in Paris. They go to the Eiffel Tower, and Christina explained to me, quote, that she wanted to get married and get a place in middle America, Wisconsin or Iowa or thereabouts. She wanted us to have a farm and raise animals and stuff. They have a beautiful dinner in Paris with Christina and her sister and mom, and they go back to their hotel suite. Quote, I remember it was raining. We flipped on the TV. It was time to get it on. Only there was one problem. I couldn't do it. So he's unable to get it up for Christina Applegate, who's, 17 or 18 years old at the time? It's a revelation. I gotta say, that's your moment of self-deprecation and honesty in this book, Sebastian. Good for you. So the Bach puns and the sexual bragging go on in a chapter called Bach This Way, after, of course, the Aerosmith song. Quote, I was becoming known in tomes of backstage lore for my prowess in procuring the most succulent lesbians in each city to hang out with us whenever we could spare the time. The quality of women on the Aerosmith/Skid Row Pump tour was phenomenal. Quote, one of my specialties on tour was to find 2 of the most insanely hot girls you had ever seen who also wanted to make out with each other, or more. Band members would run off the side of the stage, check out what was happening. One time I had 2 girls on the stage behind Joey Kramer, the drummer for Aerosmith. They were making out. I was spanking their asses as they fondled each other. Oh, sad, sad Steven Adler of Guns N' Roses. Quote, one day Steven Adler came over to visit. We had planned for him to stay at my house for a couple of days. Until I came down the next morning and opened the door of my main floor bathroom. Stephen was sitting on my toilet with a syringe in his arm. Blood was splattered all over the white walls. I told him that he had to get out of my house immediately, if not sooner. Some girl came and picked him up as I wiped his blood off the bathroom walls. Sebastian Bach claims to have only done heroin a few times. Another Steven Adler story. He would walk into his bathroom while simultaneously claiming that he would never let the band down and never do dope. Then he would remove a loose brick from the wall behind his toilet. Reaching into his bathroom wall, he would pull out a stash of dope, which he would then do in front of me, the whole time explaining to me how he didn't do dope. This Me Too moment, which we won't detail too much because it's too gross. A girl came into the hotel room in high stiletto heels. I don't remember who, but someone said the immortal line, "Let's wrap her in duct tape." It sounded like a good idea at the time. I love any story about Enough's Enough. So they're at a party, and the band Enough's Enough is at the party. Doc and Scott McGee bought bottles of Dom Perignon as a gift for the Skid Row. Quote, I walked into the studio kitchen and saw Donnie V, the lead singer of Enough's Enough, popping open Skid Row's champagne and guzzling our suds straight from the bottle. Enough's enough of that, I thought. I walked Donnie out of the kitchen into this very courtyard and explained to him, in quite emphatic terms I'm sure, that he needed to stop guzzling my champagne post-haste. I remember wanting to whoop his ass for doing this. But why spoil a good party? And what would be a good rock and roll book without a good rock and roll cliche or 1 million? Bad contracts, shitty deals, getting ripped off, underpaid. It's a long way to the top if you want to rock and roll. Rock and roll will chew you up and spit you out. Rock and roll is not for the weak. Rock and roll is not for the faint of fucking heart either, so get the fuck over it. So he meets his current wife, Suzanne, in about 2015. Wow, we're really jumping ahead here through all the boring rock and sex and bullshit. Quote, Suzanne has known me longer than I've known her. In Arkansas, when she was a little girl, she had a Skid Row poster over her light switch on the wall. Suzanne would literally turn my switch on and off whenever she went into her bedroom. Suzanne still switches me on and off nightly, sometimes in the morning, too. I guess if Sebastian Bach is to be believed, he stayed away from hard liquor and hard drugs for the most part. Recently, Scott Weiland died on his tour bus from cocaine, cardiac arrest. Like Shannon Hoon and so many before him, when I read back this book, I realize just how lucky I truly am just to be here to write this book, just to be here at all. Sebastian Bach has a problem with the overuse of the word rock star. It bugs me when a fucking dentist gets called a rock star. It bugs me when Kris Jenner calls Kim Kardashian a rock star. And it bugs me even more when Kanye West calls himself a rock star. Ooh. Oh, we all mellow with age, don't we? Quote, I discovered that I can hear even more in the music when I just turn it down a little. Wow, turning it down so I can hear it? Who knew? An evening by the fire. As nuts as rock and roll is, I enjoy the quiet times equally now. So maybe Sebastian Bach didn't have a ghostwriter for this. Most of all, I thank Suzanne. I have found true love. I have found the love of my life. And she has given me a life that I love. And I love her for that. She is my best friend. Okay, so that's Sebastian Bach. The noise being made by the homeschooled kids is reverberating throughout our basement studio. So we are going to actually invite two 11-year-olds on in a bit to talk about Skid Row and get their opinions about Skid Row. And I'm guessing they have no idea who that is. But first, Rusty, the media watchdog, we're going to quickly summarize some of these other awful, torturous rock autobiographies. Rusty.
The media watchdog.
Scar Tissue, Anthony Kiedis with ghostwriter Larry Sloman. On the cover is, and of course, shirtless Anthony, gazing down on the camera that is looking at him from below. This band, the Red Hot Chili Peppers, they do have a reputation for copulating with groupies. The opening scene of Anthony Kiedis' book, if I'm pronouncing that wrong, sorry. A beautiful young woman enters the living room carrying an exquisite leather case. She opens it and begins to set up her equipment. Her preparations complete. She dons sterile rubber gloves and then sits next to me on the couch. Her elegant large glass syringe is handcrafted in Italy. It is attached to a spaghetti-shaped piece of plastic that contains a small microfilter so no impurities will pass into my bloodstream. The needle is brand new, completely sterilized, microfine butterfly variant. Today my friend has misplaced her normal medical tourniquet, so she pulls off her pink fishnet stocking and uses it to tie off my right arm. She dabs at my exposed vein with an alcohol swab, then hits the vein with the needle. My blood comes oozing up into the spaghetti-shaped tube, and then she slowly pushes the contents of the syringe into my bloodstream. Dog break. We'll be right back.
I'm a person. They're gonna kill us all. I wish I was shorter, because they like people that are tall.
Wow, okay, that was my friend George stopping by to pick up an ancient video camera that Max had borrowed. And Ralphie and the dogs went crazy. And believe it or not, Ralphie is named after George's deceased father, Ralph. And I had naming rights when that pet came in, and George's dad had just died. So there you go, back to Anthony Kiedis. After the nurse shoots him up in this opening scene, they sit and talk about sobriety. 3 years ago, there might have been China white heroin in that syringe. For years and years, I filled syringes and injected myself with cocaine, speed, black tar heroin, Persian heroin, and once even LSD. But today I get my injections from my beautiful nurse, whose name is Sathari, and the substance that she injects into my bloodstream is ozone, a wonderful smelling gas that has been used legally in Europe for years to treat everything from strokes to cancer. He's taking ozone intravenously. And yeah, I mean, these guys, Flea and Anthony, they're, as they say, LA to the bone. They have the street cred of having grown up in LA, wandering the streets in the 1970s and early glorious 1980s. And there you have it. There's no further reason to go into this book. The opening scene is him sexualizing his new age bogus bunk quackery, illegal in the United States, ozone injection cure. Never liked the band either. I saw them, I guess it was 1989 at the State University of New York at Albany in a gymnasium. They had socks on their dicks. Flea, Acid for the Children. On the cover is him, shirtless, of course, smoking a joint. It looks like age 12. That's all we have to say about that book. He's a good person. Vince Neil, Tattoos and Tequila. Rocks, My Life in and Out of Aerosmith by well-respected rock guitarist Joe Perry. Ghostwriter David Ritz. Foreword by Johnny Depp. The Heroin Diaries by Nikki Sixx. Again, dear listener, we're just going to go through these rock books really quickly, one-word reviews, and we're going to be done with this whole genre, and I'm never going to read another book by a washed-up 80s rock star again, or cover it on this podcast, but we're having fun. Come on.
Tortillas, oh yeah. It's supposed to be tortillas, oh tortillas.
There are the rare gems and the rare biography of a female rock star. Kim Gordon did a book called Girl in a Band, a memoir, and it's fairly incredible. She's bitter after breaking up with her husband and bandmate. She's candid about her life of seemingly being around the hippest people. She dated Danny Elfman. Tony Shafrazzi was a friend. Before he became a famous art dealer, hanging out with Thule Kupferberg and the Fugs when she was just a tot. We could do a whole episode about this book, and maybe we will. This is not in the genre of the Cockrock brag autobiographies, because it's kind of a thoughtful, well-written book by a human female. Imagine that in the world of rock. All right, those homeschooled kids are being too loud, so we're going to invite them into the studio and show them some Sebastian Bach and Skid Row and see what they think. I know Skid Row, the actual Skid Row, you could do a whole episode about the Seattle version of that, but in LA right now, that means thousands and thousands of people living in tents, in unsafe, filthy conditions. And you could donate some money to charity. solve that problem, but that actually won't solve the problem. What you need to do is solve capitalism by getting rid of it.
No, I'm a tortilla.
I'm a tortilla, baby. I got cheese.
I got beans.
I got the little bit of meat and sour cream.
Okay, we have DJ Cat and Lucy. Wait, Lucy? Anyway, we have some 11-year-olds, and we want to show them a picture of this guy.
Oh.
Yeah. Yep.
So what do you think?
Looks like he's been doing crack a long time.
What? No,
His
he doesn't.
sunglasses are sunless.
Do you know who it is?
20 tower dates.
20 Tower Dates?
That's what it said.
Do you like his hair or
His name is Ducko.
DuckDuckGo? No, that's a web browser. Although that should have been his band. DuckDuckGo. Coming soon, Bon Jovi with DuckDuckGo. Okay, so you think? Can you tell where he's old and where he's young here?
This is where he's old, and
This is where he's young.
Okay.
That's where he's old. That's where he's
young.
young.
Okay.
He's probably in mid-high school in that one.
Okay. This is Sebastian Bach. Right? You know who Sebastian Bach is?
Yeah.
No.
No.
From the 1980s rock band Skid Row.
Wow.
Okay, we're going to play a video and see what you think.
Okay.
We can't play the sound to the video because we don't have the rights to use the music.
Oh.
So we're just going to play the video and see what happens.
'Cause you don't wanna...
This is Skid Row, 18 and Life. It's a song. And it has 6,871,076 views on YouTube.
That's jail.
Starts with jail. Here we go.
That's him. No, that's
No,
him.
that's
Oh.
him. Sebastian Bach.
Yeah. What do you think? He's pretty. He's got a pretty face.
He's
He
got a
looks
pretty
like-
boy face. He could surf.
He could surf.
Yeah.
Oh, is that the...
Is that George?
It's the guy that just visited? No. The big scary guy? No. Oh.
Oh, no.
So that's him getting thrown through a plate glass window by his abusive dad. And then, he's having a fight. Goodbye.
But then but they both go. Yeah.
These music videos tell a story.
Life?
Anyway, I can't watch any more of this. Can we turn it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So you guys do some of the music for the Doom Planet podcast.
Boom.
There's that song about aliens. Like, hello, I'm a person. They're going to kill us all. I wish I was shorter because they like people that are tall.
Yeah.
I'm a person. They're gonna kill us all.
And can we get you back in the studio?
Yes.
Yes.
It seems like you go into the studio and like in 10 minutes you create something that's way better than any of this rock. Do you know what rock is? I mean, do you
Yes.
listen to any rock? Or... What is the music that 11-year-olds listen to?
Christopher Robin.
Okay, well, that explains everything. Thank you very much. Are there any words you want to say to the audience?
Yes. Ronnie and Art Scott signing out.
Oh,
Peace.
that's Zarkanian?
Sharzanian.
Tarzanian, right, as a part of the Alien. When does your new album come out?
It's January 70th.
5th.
In Zardanian years?
Yes.
Okay. Hey, can you say goodbye? This is the end of the show. Thank you.
Yep.
This has been the Doomed Planet podcast. You can find more at doomplanet.com. We are part of the Wild World News Network. Goodbye.
6, 7, 8. Goodbye. This is the end of the song.